Hi folks, today I want to talk to you about something that I didn't have time to cover on Monday night's live stream, so I said I would record it as a separate video. And this is the 5 reasons I was completely wrong about Marvel Crisis Protocol by Atomic Mass Games. Now, when the game first came out, it was something that I was initially interested in. I'm a big fan of the Marvel sort of cinematic universe. I used to read the comic books when I was a kid, and I thought this might be something that I want to pick up. But there were a number of things which I now realise are just kind of misconceptions about the game that really did put me off. And that's what I want to talk about today. So the first one is that the game is not as complex as I initially thought. Now, when the game first came out, there was a number of different battle reports and things like that and kind of playthroughs. And I watched a few of those and the game just didn't interest me at all. It looked quite chaotic. It looked quite sort of complex in the rules. And I just thought, it's not something that I probably want to get involved in at this stage. Now, after actually playing the game, I realized that the core rules are actually pretty straightforward. You essentially get 2 actions, and then you can do pretty much whatever you like as long as you have the power to pay for them. Power is a resource in the game, and power is generated either by taking damage, which I think is really thematic, and we'll come on to theme in a little bit, or some of the actions that you can take are what are called builder actions, and they can actually build up your power as well. So as long as you have the power, you can do whatever actions you like. All of the information that you need is on the card in front of you, as each character has a card, so it's really easy to reference during the game. So yeah, I was wrong about it. I thought that the core rules were really kind of sort of quite complex, but they're just not. Now, the second thing is it's not the licensed cash grab that I imagined that it was going to be. Certain games come out and they have a license behind them, they spent a lot of money on the licensing and maybe not quite so much money on the development, and I wrongly assumed that this might be another one of those games. And it's just not the case. There's a lot of theme in this game. Now, designing a game around an already existing theme is already quite difficult because you have to make the characters feel like the characters in the existing universe. Now, if you've got something where it's relatively kind of human characters, if you like, then balance is probably a little bit less of an issue because you're essentially changing the weapon options, if you like, between characters. But when you're talking about something like sort of superheroes from a Marvel universe point of view, how do you represent Hulk on the tabletop of being sort of all powerful and super strong and angry without making him kind of super overpowered within the game? But Atomic Mass Games have done a great job of this. The game really does feel thematic. You can kind of pick up sort of cars and trash cans. You can pick up buildings and throw them around. You can pick up other heroes and throw them around. There's lots of things that make it feel thematic. Captain America can throw his shield at enemies, and it also can ricochet off things and bounce across and hit another enemy. We can get things like Hulk does his big thunderclap where he slaps his hands together and it kind of creates that sound wave. It's really thematic and it feels really quite balanced. There's obviously some more popular kind of choices, but generally it's not this one auto include list that everybody takes. So they seem to be doing a pretty good job of keeping it balanced. And yeah, it's a really fun game to play, and it doesn't appear to be that kind of cash grab that I thought it was. Now, the third one is about the scale of the game, and when I say scale, I mean the physical scale, like 28mm, 34mm, that kind of stuff. And initially when the game came out, there was a lot of talk online about how the scale of this game was bigger than other miniatures games already out there in the market. And there was a lot of people saying, well, none of my terrain will work, I'll have to get whole new boards, I'll have to buy lots of different bits and pieces, it doesn't work with my existing stuff. And again, this was another hurdle, another barrier in the way for me wanting to give the game a try. And I'm glad to say, with hindsight, again, that's not the case. Now, I've taken the miniatures from Marvel Crisis Protocol. We take like a human-sized miniature like Red Skull, and I've compared him against models from Malifaux by Weird Games. I've compared him against Wild West Exodus models by Warcradle Studios, and to be perfectly honest, there's not really the scale creep I think that people think there is. I think those games are slightly bigger as well, but nobody seems to comment about the scale of those games. If I'm using sort of, I think a good example is sort of Walking Dead All Out War by Mantic. If I'm using the terrain that I've already got for that, it might look marginally out of scale. And by kind of the true letter of the law, it's not the same scale. But it's not really a problem. It still looks thematic enough on the tabletop. The other side of it is something that I didn't realize when the core set first came out, is that even the marketing for the core set didn't explicitly state that you get quite a bit of terrain inside the box for that price. Even if you look on the back of the box, it has a nice shot which looks like it's been done on a nice table, and then in the top right hand corner there's the photographs of the models that you get inside. But what it doesn't actually tell you is that nice shot in the middle with all the terrain in the background, you get that terrain as well. And I don't know why this was kind of a bit of might have been an oversight by me, but it didn't appear to be kind of very obvious when it was first announced. Since then as well, I've got into 3D printing. I've been printing off some bits of terrain myself. That's made it really kind of accessible. The printer I used was like £150. It's not an expensive 3D printer, and it's printing off some phenomenal quality bits of terrain and stuff. So yeah, if scale is a bit of an issue, if it's one of the hurdles that you've kind of thought about as well, or you've just assumed, oh, it's completely different to everything else, it's actually not, and it's not really an issue. Now the fourth one is that list building is really straightforward. If you watched my video on Monday's live stream about the 5 things that I look for in miniatures games, you'll know that I quite like straightforward list building. I'm not a huge fan of kind of complex rosters and stuff like that. And the list building in Marvel Crisis Protocol is really, really straightforward. So straightforward, in fact, that you can pretty much just take whatever you like. You start off with a roster of 10 models or 10 characters, and then once you know how many points you're playing to, you choose the characters you have to match up to or not over, like sort of bang on below, but not over that points limit or the threat level as it's called in the game. And I also didn't realise initially that there's no restriction on what you can take. So yes, there are heroes like Captain America and Iron Man and such forth. And then there are villains like kind of MODOK and Thanos and all of those type of things. However, you can team them up on the same team. Now you might think, well, this sounds a bit stupid. Why would you do that? There is kind of there's a story of this in the Marvel universe. If you've watched recently sort of Falcon and Winter Soldier, you will see that Baron Zemo teams up with the Falcon and Winter Soldier to kind of have a common goal, if you like. If you've seen Civil War, you'll see how we have 2 sides of heroes, sort of Iron Man and Captain America fighting against each other. So there is history of this within the Marvel universe. So it's not like a bit of a far stretch on the tabletop. So yeah, the list building is really straightforward. There is what's called affiliations. So Captain America is the leader of the Avengers affiliation, and if you take models like Iron Man and like sort of Black Widow and that type of thing, you will get a bonus. You will get benefits to having an Avengers affiliation. But in theory, you can still kind of take whatever you like. Now there is a bonus 6th reason why I was wrong about Marvel Crisis Protocol, so stay tuned for that. Don't switch off to number 5. Now the 5th reason is that it's not dull. Like I said before, I watched these battle reports and I looked at it and I kind of thought, it looks like basically just we've got 2 superheroes just rolling dice against each other and creating a bit of damage. And it didn't really come across in the battle reports I watched. Now, if you created a battle report, I might not have seen yours. I'm not tarring everybody's with the same brush. But the ones that I watched initially did not fill me full of excitement. It didn't seem like a fun game to play. And I think, like sort of with hindsight and looking back, I think what was missing was some of that theme I talked about coming through. So, like sort of, as I mentioned, Captain America has an attack where he can throw his shield and it will ricochet off and do sort of damage to another model. And some of that kind of stuff didn't really come across in the playthroughs. It was almost a case of, yeah, I'm going to attack you, I roll these dice, does this much damage, move on. And I think if they'd actually shown the cards and shown the text, and shown the ability of what it actually does, some of that theme would come through. I didn't understand from some of these battle reports that you gain power by taking damage, and some actions are builders, which build power, and some actions are spenders, which kind of spend the big power and do big amounts of damage. Those kind of sort of subtle nuances didn't come across at all in the playthroughs, and it just looked a bit dull. I'll be honest, the games I played at the weekend, I had a stack of fun. It really felt like I was playing out some of those big Marvel movies on the tabletop. And I would honestly go as far as to say that this is one of the most thematic games I've played. And certainly the fact that it's an existing theme as well, which is quite hard to capture, as I mentioned before. I think Atomic Mass Games have done a fantastic job. Now, the sixth bonus reason that I told you about is there is a lot of replayability. Now, the way the game is set up, you're not just sort of hitting against each other and trying to kill each other's models type thing. It's the way in which the mission, the setup of the game, really does add replayability to it. Now, there are a couple of things that you have to choose at the game. You have to choose a secure mission and an extraction mission. And as they sound, secure is basically kind of sort of capture the flag type thing. Whoever controls it at the end of the round gets victory points. And then the extraction ones are basically picking up a token and holding onto it till the end of the round. If you're holding it, you get the victory points at the end of the round. But if you unfortunately if you're knocked out or you're basically you're killed in the game, you drop that token and your opponent can obviously pick that one up as well. So these is what gives and there are a number of different scenarios, and some of these new scenarios come with new model packs as well, sort of as part of the expansions. So it's an ever kind of evolving thing. Now, you choose the ones that you want to bring to the game, and on these cards is something called a threat level. Let's say 17 points threat, and this will be the limit that game is played at. So you don't know when you turn up for your game how many points you're going to be playing. And you don't necessarily know what the missions are going to be because you and your opponent are doing this prior to the game starting. So, for example, if your opponent has Thanos and Thanos costs quite a few points, and you have the choice of which mission to play, you might choose like a 14-point mission to make it more difficult for your opponent to get their Thanos model into the list because the points level is quite low. It means they're going to have to make a few exceptions and leave models out that they might need to try and kind of get the best out of that. If for example, the other way around, you get to choose and there's a certain list build that you're really comfortable with and you really want to take, you might choose the higher points level. So there's a real sort of tactical thing into like sort of setting up the game and not knowing which models you're going to be putting onto the battlefield before the game starts. The only other game I can think of like this is Malifaux, where you don't choose your models until after you know the mission, but you do know the points limit. So you've probably already got a couple of different sort of setups ready to choose from, where when it comes to the Marvel game, the points limit is variable from game to game. So yeah, these are the 5 plus bonus 6th reason of why I was completely wrong about the game. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm really enjoying it. As I said before, I'm busy working my way through picking up the core set, and I've bought the Hulk expansion and I've bought the Deadpool expansion so far. So let me know, is there a game that you've been completely wrong about? Have you kind of held your hands up and say, yep, it's not the game I thought it was and now I'm really enjoying it? Is there a game that the complete opposite happened? You thought it was going to be great and now actually when you've come to play it, it's not been that fun at all? What about Marvel? Is it a game that you already play and you love it? Is it a game that you've been put off in the past by reasons that actually might be just preconceptions? I'd love to know what you think. Put your message down in the comments below and then we can have a little chat about it. Hi folks, today I wanted to talk about something. Hi folks, today I wanted to talk about a subject that I didn't have time to cover on Monday night live stream. And that is the reasons, Now I do have a bonus 6th reason as well, so stay tuned for that. Don't switch off after number 5, stay tuned for the bonus 6th reason. Now I do have a bonus 6th reason. Now I do have a bonus 6th reason. Now I do have a bonus 6th reason. Why can't I say 6th reason? Now I do have a bonus region. Why do I keep saying region? Now I do have a bonus 6th. Now the 5th reason is that, what is it? You are playing to certain missions or scenarios, and these are called, I need to remember the names now. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it, and if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.